know.
That's true. We don't sit the front row. But
Come like
I have
Chuck,
a
sit in
friend,
front row.
exactly.
Yeah.
Educators. We know better.
All right. Good evening, everyone, and thank you all for joining us. My name is Alyssa Korpinka, and I'm the event coordinator for McNally Robinson Booksellers in Saskatoon. This event is coming to you from Treaty 6 territory, the traditional lands of the Cree, Saulteaux, Dene, Dakota, Lakota, Nakota, and Métis nations. Just to note that this event is being live streamed to our YouTube page, so please be aware of the webcam behind you. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the Saskatoon launch of Pretty Delicate by Allie McFarland and published by Ace of Swords Publishing. Thank you to Allie for being here tonight and for working with us to create this event. I'll tell you a bit about her. Allie McFarland is the author of Disappearing in Reverse, published by U Calgary Press in 2020, and Pretty Delicate, published this year by Ace of Swords. She completed her MFA in writing at the University of Saskatchewan, where she wrote her SSRHC-funded and award-nominated thesis, Pretty Delicate. Allie received the Dr. Grant McEwen Literary Arts Scholarship in 2015 for her poetic suite, Lullaby, which was published as part of her chapbook, Marianne's Daughters. Allie is a bisettler from Treaty 7 territory, Calgary, who currently resides with her partner on the unceded territories of the Chianu, Beecher Bay First Nation. She runs a not-for-profit consignment bookstore. I'll now turn things over to Allie. Please give her a warm welcome.
Wonderful. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for coming out and for tuning in on YouTube. So I thought today I would just do a reading from the book. I'm gonna read 4 different sections just because this this book is structured a little bit weird. It's not just like a straight through novel. So the first chapter of it is told in the first person. The second chunk goes into poetry. And then the third part is third person. And the fourth part is back into first person. So it just kind of changes up the narrative of the work. So I wanted to give you all a little bit of a sense of like how the whole book sounds all together. This book is also about the kind of development and then recovery from an eating disorder. So just a heads up for anyone that might need a little warning on that, even though I'm not going to get into anything that's super anything that's super graphic. So yeah, I'm gonna start here. So the part 1 is before the disorder has really taken effect. And so it's got the first person, she's just kind of thinking in her head most of this section. And then there's a second voice that is italicized in the book. So I'm going to try to say it a little differently so that it comes across that way for you guys. All right. In front of my full-length mirror, I stare at my wedding dress. Sleeveless, square neckline, empire waist studded with 2 decorative buttons. A taupe gray that has yet to offend a bride, which is good, as I'm still getting gigs by word of mouth recommendations and don't need any negative opinions derailing my freelancing when I've only just started. Though the dress is similar to many of the mothers of the groom, Mog's dresses, and those ladies with their overly hairsprayed hoops pinch their lips at me when my camera is not pointed at them. The dress was my mom's back in the 80s or 90s when she was a secretary, but she hasn't been able to get the sides of her fastened in at least a decade, and this will never go out of style. And besides, its age means you'll never have the same outfit as one of the attendees. Sure, whatever. I hook the clasp under my armpit and drag the zipper up, slowly. The aging thread strains to hold it together, and the last thing I need is for this dress to rip. Can't argue with my mom that it's good for my freelance work. Never wrinkles, never stains, or if it does, it's at least the type of fabric and color that hides a multitude of sins. And machine washable, can't beat that. Who am I kidding? I love a new dress, cute and black, or maybe millennial pink, For summer weddings, I reach my hand down my front, adjust one boob, then the next. At least the option for some variety. Maybe I'll treat myself. The money from the wedding photos is supplemental after all. But wouldn't you like your own apartment or even a house? Yeah, but no one buys anymore. And anyway, one dress doesn't matter compared to the thousands I'd need for a down payment. What about your own wedding dress? Well, that would require James to propose, and he's still got student loans to pay off, so it's not like he'll be buying a ring anytime soon. I shake my head at myself and consider the dress in the mirror. Suck in so my stomach's flat and my boobs get bigger. Maybe I'll lose a few first, then get a new dress or two. A reward. It's good to have goals. Even Mom wouldn't argue with that. She's been on my case for a while now. You shouldn't let yourself go just because you're in a serious relationship. She doesn't seem to realize that my metabolism has changed since high school, which is probably Leah's fault. I swear, she's only lost weight since graduating. No freshman 15 when she started university. I reapply my lipstick. I call the color crushed mauve, but the type on the bottom of the tube says desire. Okay. My arms, my biceps look a bit flabby. I put my hands on my hips and flex. Better. A nice jacket would cover that up and look more professional. Yeah, but first I'd have to own a nice jacket, and second, not die of heat stroke when photographing outdoor June weddings. These early afternoon weddings are the worst. They serve snacks, appetizers, while I photograph the bride and groom in the heat of day lighting, not the dawn or dusk that provide the best shadows. No. They want everyone sweating and the lighting full blown. It'd be great to work with brides who actually know something about optics, or to have them take my recommendations seriously. But how can they take you seriously when you can't even take care of your body? So now I'm going to go into the poetry section and just read a couple of poems from that. So these are poems written to that protagonist who was the one that we were with just then in the part one. So these poems are written by her younger sister. And so just kind of once Cate, the protagonist, has like progressed so far that she's been hospitalized, this is the sister kind of trying to reckon with it. Cate, you're only ever half here, not just your hanging clothes, thin sheets over your body, buried under blankets, scarves, fabric to warm you, weigh you, your body between worlds, hovering, a whisper, not just your hands, fingers transparent as moth's wings, plucking at raspberry fractals, their blood under your nails, crushed between whirls, pressing too much pressure, not just your exposed jawline, scudded over with hunger you can't acknowledge, in a place you can't name, stomach, only a void, void on your best days. Ghosts haunt, obviously. Haunting, a presence, a present presence, doors slammed at an open window chill. You don't have the strength to haunt. Vampires hunt, obviously. Hunting to prey for prey, mouth open and lies spun. You don't have the charisma to hunt. Zombies hunger, but you already know this. So now going into part 3. So this is also when Cate is in the hospital for her disorder, but she is just about to be released. And so she's gone on a little excursion that the hospital has let her take for her birthday. So she's going out for a meal with her family to celebrate. And so there's a couple different characters now that are actually going to be in the scene as well. So we have Cate and then her sister Leah. We've got Marina, who is Leah's partner. Then Cate and Leah's mother, Angie, is also there. And there's a couple other people, but they're just kind of in the background at this point. So, all right. Marina passes a large leather-bound journal tied with a blue ribbon over the table to Angie, who hands it to Leah. Originally, Leah had planned to make a scrapbook or photo album to remind Cate of who she used to be. But Leah couldn't stand to see the recent photos, and she knew Cate wasn't happy as her old self. Then she tried to write letters, but they were too angry, too raw. They wouldn't help Cate. Instead, Leah settled on compiling recipes, leaving blank pages for Cate to fill in later. I know this doesn't make up for anything. It's all I could do. Bullshit, Cate says. You could have done anything else. Anything. Sure, yeah, I get it. I needed help. I still need help. But what did you do? You didn't help. She takes the gift. Didn't even bother wrapping it. You hate gift wrap. Remember? It's wasteful. Your words. Leah smiles, then realizes her ill timing. She focuses on a point just over Cate's shoulder, staring through the doors and back into the restaurant to avoid eye contact. Cate glares at her sister. But it's the effort, the gesture. Now it's my turn to call bullshit. Does it really matter how you got into treatment if you got there when you needed it? She opens her mouth to apologize for the real issue, for what she said, for comparing Cate to their father, but her tongue doesn't cooperate. Her sister's nostrils flare and her nails pinch into the cover of the journal, but Cate doesn't reply. Leah tries another tactic. Let's sit and have a picture of sangria, and if you still can't forgive me, then you don't have to see me ever again. Cate stares at the bow on the journal. Leah's sure her sister's vision's out of focus, that all she sees is the bright blue, a mirror of the sky, open and so unobtainable. Or maybe it's just Leah who's afraid of vast spaces. Leah hears Marina's voice and glances over her shoulder, but her girlfriend's talking to Ren, not her. Legs stiff, Leah wants to shuffle her feet, or better yet, sit at the table and have a drink. Ice cold and just a touch sweet. But she doesn't move, except her eyes. She feels frozen into place with Cate. If she makes the first move to leave, she'll break the silence. To offer comfort to anything that she could offer, Leah knows she'll lose her sister. Part of her thinks Cate's stubbornness is responsible for her illness. Not just Cate's stubbornness, Leah reminds herself. It's a shared trait, almost a family tradition, passed down from dead daddy dearest. Another part of Leah, the part that doesn't see their father in Cate's disorder, thinks the entire world is at fault. Cate inhales deep enough that Leah sees her chest puff out, and she waits for Cate to speak. She doesn't. The air leaves her, and her body seems thinner, wispier. I'm afraid of big things, Leah murmurs. I'm afraid of big things, and at first, it seemed like you had a solvable problem. You didn't eat, and you needed to eat, but that's not just it. And I didn't know how to help you, and you, all of you, could have died. I wouldn't survive that. Cate shakes her head as if disagreeing with Leah. She raises her eyes from the blue ribbon. I'm not Dad, our father. I'm not an alcoholic, she whispers. Leah, still gnawing a hole in her cheek, makes eye contact. I know. She drops her gaze. It looked the same to me. And you thought it was different for me? The mountain wind gusts, tosses some napkins from tables, and twirls them around the sisters' feet. Cate doesn't wait for Leah to answer. Sure, you realize I couldn't just learn to eat and be perfectly fine. That I had to face the thoughts that led me here. But you didn't have to confront those thoughts. You don't have to wage war on your own damn mind every minute of every day. How do you distinguish your thoughts from these other thoughts that aren't quite your own? And then to have the person who knows you best, who grew up with you, who knows the real you, give up? Who could help dispute the voices in my head, if not my sister? But you don't care enough about me to help, to let yourself feel uncomfortable, to, all I wanted was you to visit, just once. Cate's voice breaks and tears push down her cheeks. She whispers, I waited. Shame washes over Leah like a cool shower, uncertain pinpricks along her scalp before a chill stream rolls over her body, her mind left refreshingly blank. Leah blinks. Cate arches her neck back and her tears engulf her body. No, it's only rain. The only cloud in the sky pours a wet, gray streak down on the sisters. The rest of Cate's party huddles under their patio umbrella as if afraid of washing away. Leah laughs. The tensions between them snap. Cate laughs too, pressing her journal close. As quick as it began, the cloud blows out, carrying the summer storm further from the mountains, leaving only their wet clothes as evidence. Cate balances her gift between her skinny thighs and pats her now damp hair. So, I was promised a refreshing drink. I hope that wasn't what you guys meant. Cate raises her voice and speaks to the table. We ordered you a Long Island. Coming to join us? Angie attempts a neutral expression as she looks at her girls. The conversation expands to include Cate and Leah as they return to the table, though they avoid speaking directly to each other. Angie doesn't mind. She knows they'll forgive and forget, eventually. And now, one last little bit going into part 4. So this is when Cate has been released from hospital, and it's back in her perspective. So it's a real short little one to finish us off. And these chapters are numbered counting days out of the hospital. So this one is day 27. This evening, after the day treatment, I opened the journal Leah gave me. I thought I could be strong enough to see what she felt, what she wrote, what she left for me to read. Wrong, so wrong. She wrote me recipes, like she said. Some of them are memories, the Russian tea cakes I could make without the recipe card. Mom's honey Dijon glaze. She even included the baked mac and cheese Dad would make when we were little. Must have asked Mom for the types of cheeses. And then some of her own recipes, ones she made with Marina, soup and brunch and something called puto, which must be one of Marina's family recipes. But tucked in the back pages, buried, I find other recipes. Between all the blank space, the empty pages, she said, I can fill with my own recipes. So well hidden, I may have missed it if I didn't flip all the pages. Zombie recipes, ones that don't make sense. Mean. And I know why she didn't visit. People go to cemeteries all the time to see dead loved ones. Not Leah, though. I don't think she's ever gone to our dad's grave. And how could she visit the undead? Thank you.
If anyone has any questions, we do have some time. Feel free to put up your hand.
What inspired you to write this book?
So this book was really like special and kind of hard to write because one of my best friends had an eating disorder and she almost died from it. And then I didn't know how to be there for her or how to help her. And being someone into books, I was like, I'm gonna read books. I'm gonna figure out how to deal with this with books and with reading. And I couldn't find anything that really seemed to fit what I was looking for. So then I wrote that. I wrote what I wanted to find. And so that's how this book came to be.
How different is it from the original thesis that you wrote, this finished copy?
This finished copy is quite similar to the thesis. There's some differences in part 4, especially where for the thesis, when you're writing like a master's, you have to be really, really focused and very specific. And when you're dealing with a topic like eating disorders, those are very sprawling and not the kind of messier. So in the thesis, it was like very much strictly anorexia as the focus. But in this final version, I introduced how it changes because a lot of people, when they're in recovery, their disorder can change from its like original manifestation, and it can start to go different ways. You can get into like more binging or more bulimic, or just other general disorders. And so it's not a straightforward linear recovery. So that's like the biggest kind of change was adding more of that messiness in. That was harder to do when you're on a strict timeline and like writing for like research purposes with a like supervisor that you've got to defend it for. Yeah, thank you.
Do you think that like the style that you use where you're changing the persons, is that something you would use in as your writing style, or is it something you would use in another novel, or do you think we would be completely different?
I think I probably would, depending on the project. I would think if I were to do something that's got more like multiple character perspectives, then playing around more in this kind of form experimentation is probably the direction I would go, because I really liked being able to do kind of all of it together, the first person and the third person that jumps around a bunch, adding in poetry just for fun. Like I liked doing that. I thought that was fun. So I probably will continue that on in some sort of way in the future.
I was just thinking that I know families that have children, teenagers who are possibly active. So I'm just wondering, would you recommend your book more to the parents to read, or the children, the child to read, or both?
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting question, a really hard one too, because I always feel a little bit like I'm not a medical professional, so I don't want to give advice or offer anything for like how to deal with things. And I also was very like conscious while working on this that I don't want it to be something that a lot of eating disorder kind of books can also be used as blueprints for how to be better at the disordered eating for people who are trying to figure it out or trying to hide it. So I really didn't want to have any of that as a concern either. But I think this would definitely be a book for the people surrounding the person, because that's the position that I was in, and that's the position I was looking for the book from. I know my friend, she's in recovery now, and so she's been in recovery for several years. I talked to her throughout the whole process of this book and stuff, and she said that she supports the book, and she was talking about how she thinks it's not so much about the disorder in its like particularities as it is about the what she calls shrapnel, the how it impacts the relationships around you, and just like about the building of compassion for someone who is suffering, and like just kind of what does care look like. Thanks.
Classic last question, what are you working on now? I know, but they don't.
So I got a on the go project about 3 adult children who end up moving back home with their mom. All at the same time, very unexpectedly, and the mom was very much looking forward to an empty nest. And it's just about the chaos of what happens when you get these 4 very different women under the same roof. And how can they figure out how to actually talk to each other and communicate, and like build up real relationships beyond just the we are family, but like how to come to terms with each other as like individuals, and how to also learn how to be adults for the kids that are kind of failing a little bit in that regard.
And you anticipate you finish those that are eager to know. Oh, yeah.
That's very hard to say. And I probably like 2/3 done the writing, but then there's always the finishing writing and then the editing and then the publishing. So
In a couple of years, so.
a couple of years away, yeah.
All right, well, if there are no more questions, I'm just going to jump up and say a quick word before I let you mingle. I'd like to thank Allie again for being with us tonight. And I will now invite you to meet her at the signing table with your copies of Pretty Delicate. The signing table is just over there. And you are more than welcome to get your copies signed. Just please make sure to stop by the cash desk on your way out the door. Thank you all so much for coming out tonight and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Well, good. Great.